morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Very welcome back to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. We do apologise that we have been absent for quite a few weeks, mainly on behalf of myself. I should have mentioned through one of the TikToks we did that I've been in the process of moving house, and for anyone that has moved house, it is a stressful pain in my rear end. So I hope you can suffice, and this should be us until the end of the season, and back into a weekly routine to bring a weekly podcast for you guys. So thank you very much for bearing with us. And yeah, we are going to get back to usual ways. Obviously, we're going to talk a wee bit about the game away to St. Mirren, where we came away with a 2-1 win to ever grow that gap between us and Kilmarnock to secure third place sooner rather than later. And we shall look ahead also to our next home game, which is against Livingston, and just talk about a few bits and bobs as well. Quite a few things to cover. Obviously, we have not talked about personally the new pre-contract signings, so we'll touch a wee bit about them. Obviously, there's a bit of a drama that's done throughout this week in terms of a 50-50 ticket split, and we will obviously bring you more context as we go along. So that's going to be your podcast for this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, for whatever time you are watching. So as always, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the Since I Was Young, it's been a long time. Fucking hell. If you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing to the YouTube page, that will be in the link as well. And if you want to check out our other socials as well, please feel free to do so. We're pretty active on all of them, so please feel free to check those out. And if you want to give us a like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is these days, please feel free to do so. So Alan, as I said at the start, it's nice to be back. How are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. It feels a bit strange, like you say, I've not done one for a few weeks, and I know you obviously mentioned that you've recently moved as well. It wasn't helped by the fact that I also recently moved, so we've
Different
picked
times
a
in life.
great time. Yeah, we've picked a
Absolutely.
great time to just do these things. But yeah, and that coupled with a ridiculous number of night shifts have meant that I've pretty much either been moving boxes or being a bit of a zombie. So but no, things have settled back down now, so it's all good. I'm very well,
Okay.
thank you for asking.
Very well, sir. I can relate as well. Pain in the arse. So yeah, enough about our own personal lives. We can get back to talking what we do. Obviously, when we came back from the international break, we came away with a point to Kilmarnock. Obviously, we won't go into that because it's all news. Most recently, we went away to Paisley and came away with a 2-1 win, which was a nice wee look at to bring a further 3 points to take us slowly more up the table with third place very much in sight. Um, I think we can start off before we go in to the team news. Once again, it was a nice wee stat that you gave me in terms of the amount of away wins we have won this season compared to. I mean, I can't remember how long it was you actually said, but it was a good few number of years since we hit the amount of wins that we've done at the League in terms of going away. Was it about 10 wins away this
Yeah,
season or something like that? Yeah.
yeah, it was the first time for 32 years that we've had double figures of wins, which is not
As
quite
old
as
as
long as my
me?
lifetime, but
It's as
well,
old
there
as
you
me, my
go.
man.
I've got a couple of years on that, so I'll give it that. But aye, it's mad. It's just crazy when you consider like some of the teams that we've had in that time and some of the players that we've had in that time to not have 10 away wins in a league season is a bit bizarre, but it's, as I say, I'll mention it later on when we're talking about Naismith, but it shows just how far we've come in that sense, which was really, really nice to see.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. I mean, like we've mentioned countless times before, like since we've been doing the podcast, that the away sort of like performances in general has always been a thing in terms of the negativity that we've had when we go to other grounds, like teams that we, you know, not to say bad, but like we expect to get some sort of results. Obviously, every away ground you go to is always going to be tricky, but on paper, you expect to get something back. But it is nice to see in terms of the away form has well and truly been amazing throughout the season, and has obviously helped us stay where we are in the table. And as we said, going away to Paisley with a fantastic win as well. Um, Obviously, you can go into a bit more detail with the team in terms of the lineup, but I know that you were texting me before the game, the fact that we had no Benny and our captain as well, Shankland. It didn't make for yeah, it didn't make for quite nice reading in terms of the starting lineup, and in terms of confidence as well going into the game as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny. When I saw the lineup, I was concerned. I think St Mirren away in Paisley, it's one of those games that, like, obviously you have confidence that you can get a result because we should be able to, but they're also not a bad side, as is shown by their season they've had so far this year.
Hmm.
So there was always that bit of, this is going to be tricky, and I know obviously we didn't do a preview because we haven't done a podcast for a long time, but I would imagine if we did do a preview for St Mirren, I would have said my usual, it won't be an easy game. So when I saw the team news, there were a few surprises. Obviously, I was at the Kilmarnock game the week prior, and there were a few performers in that game that just didn't really do all that well for me. I won't obviously go into it because it's old news at this point, but I was surprised to see Dexter Limbakisa start against St Mirren. He didn't have a great game against Kilmarnock, and obviously was at for one of the players that was at fault for the Kilmarnock goal that got them the point. So I was quite surprised to see him, but having sort of looked at it and listened to a lot of different people, it seems that Dexter is the sort of preferred option when we play with a back five, and Natty kind of comes in when it's a four, for whatever reason, I don't know. But maybe just, I think, and I've spoken to a few people about this, I think that Dexter, the one thing that Dexter has on Natty, and I'm not going to make this all about Natty because obviously I could quite easily. But the one thing that Dexter has over Natty, I would say, is his pace. And I think that helps when you're sort of in that wing back role rather than, Natty just sort of has license to kind of go wherever he wants to, which sometimes is a good thing and sometimes not so much. So yeah, I was surprised that Dexter started against St Mirren, but then obviously when I realised the system, it made a lot of sense. The other sort of things to highlight from the lineup was a real lack of physicality in the team, having Devlin and Tate as a midfield. Two cracking lads, to be fair, two cracking young. Well, I say young players; they're not both of them, but two very good players that can put themselves about. But there was that element for me of thinking we could lose that physical midfield battle here, And I'm not saying Benny's a physical player, but he's certainly more physically imposing, shall we say, than Tate and Devlin, who are probably more likely to nip you around the ankles than anything else. And obviously, like you said, no Shankland up front. Apparently, it's only the second league game that he's not been involved in I think something like 2 years, which is crazy. And yeah, as I say, when I saw Shankland wasn't in the team, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this could be a long afternoon. Conditions were horrible as well, so it didn't make for a lot of positivity before kickoff, shall we say?
Well, I mean, I do agree with you in that sense as well. Like in terms of a more kind of threatening side, it certainly didn't look our strongest, like especially throughout the season as well. I mean, I think that like sort of had the name on the team sheet, like like referring to Shankland. It kind of takes that like well mainly like sort of our attacking impetus out of the game. I mean, before we talk about the actual game itself, it was interesting. You mentioned this as well. You know, not having I guess a recognised striker on the actual pitch as well. Like even with the option of Tagawa there as well. Um, could this be a potentially future-esque Heart side if Shanklin were to go this year as well? Because obviously, like the fact that Naismith didn't pick Tagawa I mean, I don't know if it was mainly just to work with the system that he was going for, or if he just doesn't fancy him. But you know, do you think that this could potentially be another new system to add to the ones that we've already got in terms of like not having an actual striker? Or I mean, I don't particularly know what Grant was in that setup, like if it was a false nine, or like or if we just had that front three just to create chances for everybody else, but could this actually be a feature setup you would like to potentially see going forward?
I think it's interesting. I think obviously while we were away, the news of Kenny Vargas permanent deal was obviously announced 5 years, and he kind of, I'm not going to say he led the line against St Mirren, but he was certainly probably the most forward player. So yeah, I think Tagawa is a really, really difficult one because I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't know what the
Mm.
plan is for him. I don't know if it's just simply he's not settled in well, or I remember reading something a while ago and it was Naismith and he was asked about Tagawa and he said he basically took the blame and said, I haven't managed him properly, or I haven't, like, it was something along the lines of that. It was kind of, Naismith sort of taking the kind of heat off the shoulders of Tagawa, which is probably quite good management from Naismith, to be fair. But yeah, there's part of me that still wants Tagawa to work. It really, I do. But the game against St Mirren, like I say, when I looked at the lineup, there was a huge lack of physicality. And I'm not saying Tagawa's a physical player, but he's certainly got a bigger frame than the likes of Alan Forrest and Kenny Vargas, who were the two that were leading the line against St Mirren. So there could be case to say that Tagawa doesn't have a long term future at Hearts, but I really don't know. I think the thing that's sort of writing on the wall for me a little bit is that he didn't even get on as the game went along. The subs that were made, Tagawa stayed on the bench. And we had the young lad Wilson on the bench, and to be honest, I thought we were more likely to see him than Tagawa at certain points. Just as is the way that Tagawa's Hearts career has gone so far, but I really don't know. And I think you say about the system without Shankland, I think it's funny because people will say, "Oh, is this how we're going to play without Shankland?" And I think it's not something I want to think about, to be honest, because I'm enjoying him being a Hearts player, and I hope he is for the foreseeable future. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, I think the system was put in to almost play the conditions rather than the players that we didn't have. I think if that makes a lot of sense. I think the high winds, kind of took the possibility of going long kind of out of the game. The amount of times that St Mirren tried to lump the ball forward and it just got caught in the air and went backwards, and we tried it a few times as well. It didn't sort of lend itself for that. I think the game was probably better if the ball was more on the floor, obviously. And I think Naismith probably thought, well, rather than have that hold up, we need sort of technical players to keep the ball on the floor. And I think the one player that really impressed me, and he has done for a couple of weeks now, I have to say, is George Grant. I thought he was very, very good against St Mirren. He played well against Kilmarnock while he was on, and he played well against St Mirren again. It certainly seems to be, and George Grant's one of those frustrating players that I like him, but I don't know what he is, if that makes sense. I still don't quite know. Like, he blows hot and cold, and it's annoying because there's clearly a player there somewhere, but I just don't really know. And I think, again, obviously we've had pre-contract signings all but confirmed that play in a similar position to George Grant. So I do wonder what happens with him going forward. But certainly against St Mirren, he put in a good shift. I have to say. So if this is, just to sort of sum it up before I give you it back, if this is a system that we can play without Shankland. I think there's positives to it, but I think at the same time, Shankland's presence in the game was missed more than anything else. I think his ability to just hold that ball up and bring others in was something that we missed massively because a lot of the, certainly in the early stages of the game anyway, and probably the second half as well, a lot of it was kind of we were getting the ball forward, but it was all just too quick and it wasn't sticking, which is something obviously that Shankland is very, very good at.
And well, I mean, just in that sense as well, like obviously since the game was last week, we don't want to bore people too much with the details. But I take it through the penalty kick because I do agree with your comments about Jorge. I think since Boyce has been injured, I think I mean, you're saying about how you don't really know what kind of player he is yet. I do agree to some extent. I think from what I've seen, Naismith likes to play him just behind Shankland in terms of being that almost number 10 role to kind of, you know, if Grant can feed through Shankland or vice versa. He
Yeah,
seems to be, I don't. I mean, in the sense while you're talking about it, I mean, I don't really see him as a as a wide player. I don't really see him as a sitting in midfielder, attacking midfielder. So, I guess on the other side of the coin as well. It could be a good thing for Naismith to maybe explore what Grant can actually do as well. I mean, yeah, granted that this is his second season, and you know, we should all have a better picture of what he actually can do. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see what him and the pre contracts that we have can bring next year in terms of adding to the squad. But again, it is a let's say a good problem to actually have. But yeah, um, um, the penalty itself, Stonewall, yeah, no doubt.
yeah, yeah. I don't know why it took them as long as it did to give it. To be honest, I think the ball. I'm sure it was either a corner or a free kick, and it comes in. It's the second phase of play, and there's a shot, and the St Mirren players sliding across to block the shot. To be fair to him, he's trying to block it, and one of his arms is on the floor, and the other arm is up, and it hits his arm that's up, and deflects the ball. Like the ball changes direction. So yeah, it's a penalty. I know there's some people that say, oh, he doesn't know where his arms are. He's sliding, his arms in a natural position, and maybe it is, but the ball hits his arm. Like there's no debate about it. And yeah, when obviously we got the penalty, I think it came at a good time in the game because we were kind of huffing and puffing a little bit, and there wasn't really a lot happening. And to get it at the time that we did as well was obviously important. It was pardon me, it was just sort of after half an hour or so. And yeah, it had been a bit of a slog up to that point. So for us to get a penalty to break the deadlock and kind of open it up was positive. Obviously, George Grant being the man on the pitch, being the man that takes the penalties apparently when he's on the pitch, and Shankland isn't. I was confident when Grant stepped up to take it, but I didn't really rate the penalty all that much, to be honest with you. um, let's just say he's very lucky that the goalkeeper goes the complete opposite way, because I don't think the penalty was particularly good. But I always get a bit nervy when players put the penalty down the middle. I know goalkeepers tend to dive 9 times out of 10 because it looks like they've made an effort rather than just stand still. But yeah, I don't like penalties that go down the middle. They always make me nervous.
You and me both, sir. But it was a good start for us, especially as you said, after half an hour, a good time to come in out to the game. Um, with the second goal, it was put down as an own goal. I think in terms of the weather being dreadful, it actually helped us in this situation where Cochrane sort of got in the corner, and then it was just a massive scramble, pretty much, and then I think it ended up the collecting of one of the St. Mirren players. I mean, yes, scrappy goal, but I'll take it any day of the week. But what I do want to talk about as well, which you could argue was one of the main talking points, as you said, that we got a Stonewall penalty. Um, there was the issue of St. Mirren. I would probably say having a good case to have a penalty as well. I think. Like you're shrugging your face there, Alan. So I won't go into much about it. But I mean, from what I saw, and in terms of what I saw from the highlights as well, I do think there was contact there. Like when you look at the VAR, maybe I think if he was to do that outside of the box, it's a free kick. However, with it being a bit more a kind of um let's say more that like a kind of like sort of like bird's eye view, I think the referee, I don't know, if that was me, I would have probably went with a penalty. But obviously, there was other people, much like yourself as well, that were saying that it was for the other referees, it might have been. But you're saying that it wasn't, no?
Yeah, I don't think it was. I think the
Fair.
I can understand though, like I understand the point and I get it because we've seen penalties like that given before. Um, but I think it's an interesting one because you're right in the sense of what the goalkeeper sees. But sorry, what the referee sees. But ultimately, the referee didn't give it at the time. The referee said no penalty at the start, and then VAR said, well, actually, you might want to have a look. And obviously, at that point, St. Mirren had got a goal back, and it was 2-1. So yeah, there was a part of me going, "Oh fuck, here we go." This is the typical Hearts chucking it away, we're back kind of thing.
Mm.
So when the referee was sort of summoned across to the monitor, I was preparing myself for it to be a penalty, and not because you know, um, like I thought it was going to be given, but I just felt, you know what, the minute that referee's been asked to go to the monitor, 9 times out of 10, that results in a penalty being given
Mm.
because referees very rarely stick to their on field decision when presented with evidence to show that they maybe should reverse that decision. But to be fair to the referee, he went across, he had a look, and he stuck to his call. He said no, no penalty, which probably surprised me more than anything else. Um, I think it's an interesting one because Denham is in a position to tackle. He's in a position to make a foul, but I think what he does is very clever. He stops himself from going full in, and the St Mirren player McMenamin is anticipating the contacts coming, and there maybe is slight contact, but you can maybe put that down to momentum more than an actual attempt to make a foul from Denham because you can see he does that typical thing where they put their arms up and sort of back off a little bit as if to be like, "Oh, I'm not guilty. I'm not doing anything." And I think, as I say, St Mirren fans were raging about it, which is always pleasing. Um, and yeah, but it's not something I say very often, but I'll say it when it goes in our favour, and I'll give huge credit to the referee, which again feels very odd to say, but I'll give him credit for sticking to his decision because that doesn't happen often.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the main thing is that we came away with all 3 points. At the end of the day, I don't at this moment in time, if I'm right in saying, I think Livingston is our last game before the post split. So, um, if my maths is correct, and it rarely is, I don't think we can wrap up third place if we beat Livingston, because even if we win and if Kilmarnock lose, we'll only be on 14 points, which I think if in the next game, whoever we get, if we win that and if Kilmarnock lose again, then we can actually wrap it up. But as I said at the start, 3 points. I don't care how we do it. That's all that matters. So, 2-1 to Heart against St Mirren last weekend. So Alan, in terms of moving on, in terms of the subjects that we had to talk about there, obviously the key story that has been doing the rounds next week, this week, is the issue of the semi-final in the Scottish Cup against Rangers, which you know, Hearts as a club fought a tooth and nail to get a 50-50 ticket split. Obviously, we saw with Aberdeen and Celtic, Aberdeen it didn't get 50%, which I don't want to sound big headed here, but I kind of get that. I wasn't kind of too surprised at the reason why they didn't. Again, I know that football is mainly all about the finances, and you would expect Celtic to fill more of their fans there than Aberdeen. But with us, it is a bit of a difficult one. Because I can sit here and tell you, you've seen yourself, when we've been to semi-finals, finals, and that we've packed out our like sort of end of the stadium, and granted, yeah, there has been some times where we've not. But you know, the thing that I kind of want to start with is I saw a tweet from who was it again? Tam McManus, I think it was, and he made it. Yeah, I know. And then he made a joke about how the biggest team in Edinburgh, or the the biggest team in Scotland, I've got like 5,000 tickets left to sell. No, surely not. But in this sense as well, obviously we've got 2 weeks left. We've got 5,000 tickets left to sell. With the comments, obviously I kind of took it on the chin and didn't really make a big deal out of it. But if just to kind of humor the point that Meg Manus made, if we've got this apparent thousands of people on the season ticket list, where are these people? I mean, I know, like 2 weeks is still a long time to sell out whatever we have left. And I believe it was just yesterday as well that the club put out a statement on Twitter as well saying that, it was something like where if you're loyal points, you can buy two tickets instead of one, like, or this or that, etc. But what's your view on it, Alan? Because obviously there it has been said as well that Hearts will effectively have to pick up the tab for the tickets that we don't actually sell. Now, do you think that's fair of the SFA to say, considering that they didn't give us a 50-50 split? Or do you feel that that's appropriate in terms of the fact that we demanded that we had a 50-50 split?
I think it's a difficult one. I think, the club obviously and quite rightly demanded the 50-50 because that's how it should be. I don't. I know what you say about Aberdeen, Celtic, etc. There will obviously be more Celtic fans in Hampden than there will be Aberdeen fans, but any cup final should be a 50-50 split. Like I
Yeah.
know not everybody sells them out. I totally understand that for logistic reasons, obviously, but I think for it to not be 50-50 straight off the bat just shows how old firm centric they are. And the fact that both Celtic and Rangers have their home ends of a neutral venue is something that just baffles me. But no, like in terms of from Hearts' point of view, I totally understand asking for 50-50 because, we've been selling out Tynecastle, most weeks, or at least it's been very, very difficult to get tickets in most weeks this season. So yeah, I can totally get it, and obviously it's an old firm semi-final opponent, so they'll want as many fans to go as possible. That goes without saying. I think they've done the right thing in getting the 50-50, and I'm pleased that they did. Whether you know, there's been lots of different numbers floating about how many tickets we've still not sold. the thing is, you're always going to get that initial rush for tickets and people going, right, yeah, no, we need to get them. I think we sold something like 10,000 in the first like 3 or 4 hours, which is crazy, really, but it doesn't surprise me. Um, but I think, and I'll kind of make the case for people that can't go or have decided not to. I understand the whole, the club have backed the fans, so the fans now need to do their bit and pick up the tickets and go if they can. But you're looking at a day out at Hampden. The tickets are expensive as it is, for one person, and let alone two, three, four, whatever. It's an expensive day out. That goes without saying. And obviously, this day and age, there's lots of things that, take priority. And some people might not like to hear that because some people think football is the most important thing in the world. And to some people, it is. And, I applaud them. But, people do have lives and people do have priorities, and cost of living, etc., is a real thing. So I can understand why people are saying, you know what, it's too expensive, I'm not going to go. But if you are able to, and if you have the financial means to, you absolutely should. Like, I mean, I would go, but sadly I'm working, and then there's no way I can change my shift. Trust me, I've asked. So yeah, it'll be watched in the pub for me. Unfortunately, I'd love to be in the stands at Hampden, and if, as I say, if I could, I absolutely would. But such is life. I hope that we sell out a few more. I don't think we'll get a full sellout. I don't. They've kind of released them in sections as they do. I don't know whether it would have been better just to say, right, every section is open straight off the bat and kind of fill it up as you go.
Oh God. Sorry, man.
We've
Sorry,
got a
yeah.
visitor. Sorry. It's it's a tough one. It really is. But I back the club for asking 50-50. I'm pleased they got it. And the fans, I think that there's a lot of panic and outrage about it and judgment, which I don't like. I've seen lots of social media posts about, targeted at certain fans and saying, if you should go, why are you not going? It's ridiculous if you're not going to go. The club have done brilliantly, blah, blah, blah. Perspective is something that's important to note. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go, because if you can, you absolutely should. But I won't judge or, you know, talk down to fans that choose not to go. I know there are some fans as well that are choosing not to go because simply we're playing Rangers and the chances are we're not going to win. But to that end, I would say, well, do you know what? If we go to Hampden and somehow beat them, you're going to be raging you weren't there. So it kind of works from both sides of it. I do understand the sort of skepticism of people saying, but it's Rangers, we're not going to win anyway, so what's the point? I get that. But imagine we do, and you're not there to see it. Like, I wasn't at the 98 Cup final because I was young and also unwell, and I'm still gutted I missed that game. Do you know what I mean? It's that's the reality of it. But if you choose not to go, you obviously have a valid reason to do so, and I'm not going to say that somebody's right or wrong, regardless of that.
Yeah, yeah, like everything you've said, like I really don't disagree with. I think, as I said at the start, like 2 weeks is still, it seems quite a short like sort of window, but you know, you would be surprised at how many tickets you can actually sell in that space of time. I think in this instance, the fans need to back the club, because obviously if it if it was the other way and we didn't get a 50 allocation split, I think we'd be outraged saying, "Oh, why not?" or this or that, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
So I do agree with the fact saying, like, if you can go and if you have the opportunity to go, and if you can, most importantly, afford to go, then please, by all means. I don't think it's about who the opponent is. Obviously, I know that in this case it is one of the old firm, but in that regard, I don't think it should particularly matter who your opponent is. You're there to support your club, and that's
yeah,
the main thing. But
yeah,
as we said, we shall update you throughout the next 2 weeks in terms of ticket sales as well, as
yeah.
will the club as well. But we can have a look forward to our last point on the podcast, which is our home game to Livingston, I said at the start, it's our last game before the post split fixtures come, um, with 5 games left still in the season. So, Alan, I think this is probably the first time, just judging off of Livingston's form. I'm actually quite confident, but on the other side, if there was ever a time to get 3 points from any team, you would probably bet your house on Ned on Ed the getting them from us as well. So, but yeah, overall, I'm quite confident. Like, if we can go into the split, obviously if results go our way regarding Ned Kilmarnock as well, if we can get to 14 points, going in out to the split, um, then all we have to do is win. You know, um, then I'll be relatively happy with that. So yeah, what are your thoughts of going in to the game?
Just before I give you my thoughts, I just had a thing on my phone just flash up that Hearts have released a thing, one of their quarterly chats that they have with Andrew McKinley. They just posted a wee clip of it. It says, again, this gives away the timing of recording of this, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet because it's currently on my phone. But it's basically there's an update on next week's Scottish Cup semi final. So I imagine he will be talking about ticket sales on that because obviously it's been quite a topic of conversation. Anyway, thought I'd just kind of bring that up because it just flashed up for me there. In terms of Livingston, it'll be like we say, they've not had a great season. They're rock bottom of the table, looks certain for relegation, barring some miracle. And yeah, like you say, it's the sort of game that we should be looking to win by a relatively comfortable margin, because we should be able to do that. However, Livingston, although as I say, they are scrapping for points at the bottom end of the table and looking destined for relegation, they're still not confirmed as relegated. So they will be scrapping for points just to try and at least cling on to something. So it could be, and it probably will be, another one of those afternoons where we're up against a side that sit in and defend and basically ask us to break them down, which, as we've seen in previous games this season that have followed a similar pattern to that, we struggle to do so, unless we start quick, which we did against Kilmarnock. But in the end, obviously, we only got a point out of that game due to Kilmarnock's management more than anything else. Um, so yeah, will be a tricky one. It will be a tricky one. I know, as I say, Livingston haven't had a great season. But if we, and again, I feel like we could copy and paste my pre-match previews. If we start quick, if we get in their faces, and if we put them under pressure early on, we should be able to come through and get the result. Um, Shankland is back after illness. I think he was training in the last few days anyway. Benny, I don't know. I've not heard anything, but I would imagine he'll probably be back as well. Neuenhoff, we haven't seen him for a few weeks. So it'll be nice to see him if he's back available. And yeah, look, the other things like, Barry Mackay being back is a big thing. He's recently come back, made appearances, came off the bench against Kilmarnock and St Mirren as well. So we're getting to a stage where we're getting players back from injury, which is important heading into the split. Like our league split form has never been particularly good. We tend to kind of limp to the end of the season, which is fine when you've got a gap, but you also don't want to give any hope to the teams behind you. Yes, it's 11 points, and McInnes has already come out and said that they're not going to catch us, but I think that's more mind games than anything else. Um, so yeah, I want us to put Livingston away. I want us to put them away comfortably, but I know that that likely will not happen, as is Hearts and their performances against sides that just sit in and defend.
So to that as well, I'm still a bit confused if you're actually confident or not, sir. So just to kind of wrap this up, just to give your defining answer, can I have a prediction for the weekend?
I'm confident. I'm confident because we're at home and we're not playing on a plastic pitch. Yeah, I'm confident. I'll go for a 2-0 win.
Okay, reasonably confident. Well, with just for me personally, since I'm in a brand new home, a brand new start, etc., I'm gonna go for the very confident, and I'm saying very confident. I don't think I've ever said this in terms of a prediction this season, but I'm going to go for a comfortable 4-0 win for Hearts.
Bit of momentum building for the semi-final then.
Momentum or foolish confidence. I don't know which one to go for, but either way, if we come away with a 4-0 win, I'll never let it down. But yeah, as always, guys, we would love to hear your predictions for this weekend's game. Obviously, your thoughts in terms of the ticket sales for the semi-final against Rangers, and if you will be attending as well. So we would love to hear all your thoughts, and if you want to get them in either through our YouTube page or the Twitter page, which are the two main ones that we're most active on, please fire them away. So yeah, this brings us to the end of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. Thank you very much for joining us after our wee break. And if you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing to the YouTube page. And if you want to catch us on all our other socials as well, please feel free to do so. And for all those attending the game at the weekend, we do hope you have a good one, and let's hope it's not too windy. Thank you very much again from myself and Alan, and we'll see you in the next one. Go take care. Bye for now.